Carly, I'm not trying to start nothing, but all my stuff, all my stuff worked perfectly today. Plugged it in, no problems. How's your day been? Carly, are you frozen? Is that how bad your day has been? Carly is dead, everybody. I'm sorry. Carly died in a terrible Mac computer accident. And that is now a waxwork image of Carly. That is what Carly would look like in Madame Tussauds if she was actually important enough to get a waxwork image in Madame Tussauds. Quite sincerely, that wasn't meant to happen. So I'm going to give her a quick call because she was online literally seconds before we started. If you haven't already got the vibe, she's had a really bad day with technology, which means she's in a really bad mood. And that means it's going to be a really good show. So stick around while we work through some technical difficult and try and get the Oddcast on the road. Honestly, it would not be an Oddcast if it weren't for some technical challenges. Let's have a chat with Carly together, shall we? Hi. You're on air, just so you know.
Cannot get this to work.
Yeah. Look, did your boyfriend come near the computer with a cup of tea?
No. Can you see? Am I in StreamYard?
No, you froze as soon as I went live, and I had a wonderful chat with myself for a little while there, humiliating myself in front of 260 people, and then you dropped out. So,
right.
Yeah, the current situation is that you're not visible anywhere in here. Have you tried turning it off and back on again?
I'm going to have to. Hang on. Am I live? Like, can you hear me through StreamYard, or am I on the phone?
No, only through the phone.
Okay, I'm going to have to restart my computer. I do not know what's going on.
All right.
And I will join in as 2 minutes.
I will do an Irish jig in the meantime.
You're going to have to, and
all right.
Fort, I'll be right there.
All right.
Bye.
Well, everybody, looks like it's just you and me alone with my thoughts. That is a terrifying. I will never. That sentence should not exist in the English language. You know what is funny? Last week we both had technical difficulties, and I blamed my USB cable. And what's been really funny is that I went out and bought a new USB cable, and it remains untouched, new in box, seal unbroken, price still attached. I could go and get a refund on it if I wanted to, because no sooner did I get back with the new USB cable, but all of a sudden everything started working flawlessly, and the error that I was having has not reoccurred since then, and it's been a week. So yes, that's frustrating for me. Stu, you know me very well. I always need a cigar. I'm just going to, there was a comment earlier that I just want to quickly, it was actually from before the show started. I'm going to comment on this one time and one time only, because some of you, but only a few of you, will have seen this floating around on the interwebs. It's not something that I want to pour fuel on. Where is it? Come on. I'm going back. Okay, $10 says you're late. Well, thank you, Pro Engineer. We weren't late. I made sure of that, just so I could keep you $10. That way I didn't have to give it back. I've got, some people have been speaking of the David Limbrick video that he released today. I've got that lined up for tonight. That is going to be a part of tonight's show. Where is it? I'm still going. Where is it? Okay. So I'm not going to make comment on this except to just put it up. So Riot 9, you've obviously seen this online. What you're being told is not even half of the story. I'm not going to go into the other side of the story, because that then just fuels this cycle and fuels this cycle and fuels this cycle. There was such an appalling lack of customer service. They would disappear for a month or more at a time without an explanation. We could not get contact back from them. We would call them, we would text them, we would send emails. I would have customers asking me for refunds because they'd ordered things, paid for things, and they weren't shipping, and I couldn't even get so much as a response from them. This happened multiple times over a course of years. Each time we would talk about it, when they finally resurfaced, they'd assure me that it would never happen again, that they would communicate better. Each time they took some big hits in that time, as I'm sure you know if you've seen their side of the story. They took some big hits, and so I was as patient as I could be. because I want to be understanding, and I'm not someone who burns a bridge easily, but when they keep doing that to you, and every time there's a new drama, every time there's a new thing, the same pattern plays out. Regrettably, after a lot of warnings and a lot of working with them and a lot of them apologizing and promising that it would never happen again, it kept happening, and it came to the point where I just had to walk away from them as a service provider. It's regrettable. I don't think that they're evil, horrible, awful people. I think that they have very little idea how to run a good business, and lacked professional courtesy. That's all I'll say. Yeah, I'm not going to dive into any kind of tit for tat and all kinds of nonsense. So honestly, if you're asking this question, can somebody explain that to me? Don't bother. Don't bother. It's a professional parting of ways between myself and one of my old suppliers. It's regrettable because I think they're decent people, but horrible at business, and yeah, very, very poor at professional courtesy. So I moved on from them. They are pushing their side of the story as far and as loud as they can. I don't care. I don't care. I've never cared how many people think I'm a villain, and I never will. So I'm not going to buy into some dumpster fire of a tit for tat. That's it. That's it. All right. So fuel crisis has ended. What a nothing burger. I wish it was that simple. Fuel crisis, the worst of it is over. That much is true. And, you know, I think I'm right in saying that I was kind of all the way through saying, hey, guys, this is pretty serious, but like, let's not buy into this end of the world stuff, right? This is going to be done and dusted sooner than I think a lot of people thought. But let's not forget that the knock-on effect hasn't played out yet. There are crops that didn't go into the ground. There are farmers that didn't get fertilizer. You know, it's not over yet. Okay, so Tony's now clarifying that was a sarcastic comment. Apparently, I didn't read the tone correctly. Okay, yeah, it's not over. But I will say, like, it wasn't worth the doom mongering that a lot of people went on and on about. So yes, Tony Wong, you got me there. But no, it's honestly, it's not that bad. It just isn't. So one of the things that I think a lot of people lack is an innate understanding of the power of the invisible hand. So was it Adam Smith, I think, devised kind of this metaphor, if you will, for the market, that there's this invisible hand. There is no central authority controlling and planning what everyone does, and yet somehow all of this activity coordinates around the economy and things get done. Probably the first time I really had an in-depth conversation with someone on this was the day that I spent with Dick Smith. So for those that don't know the story, very briefly, Dick Smith came across my work. He wanted me to be the face of his campaign against a big Australia. He flew me up to Sydney. We spent the day together, flying in his jet, flying in his helicopter, talking for hours on end. It was an amazing day. And he's actually a great guy. I think he's wrong on a number of key policy areas, but he's a genuine guy who cares about Australia and was willing to put his money where his mouth was. He was willing to pay me $1 million. It was a thing called the Wilberforce Award. If you just Google Dick Smith Wilberforce Award, you'll read about the fact that he was offering it. Well, he actually offered it to me in person, face to face. And I'd read his book and I'd watched his documentary. He was worried about a big Australia. He wanted me to be the face of his campaign against a big Australia. And his thesis was based essentially on Malthusianism. His thesis was based on kind of the Club of Rome limits to growth, the population bomb kind of philosophy that had clearly affected his thinking and affected his way of seeing the future. He talked to me about running out of fertilizer and running out of this and running out of that and running out of space and damage to the atmosphere and all kinds of ecological disasters and technological disasters and famines and all kinds of things that were coming. And on every single point that he made, I had a counterpoint that I was personally satisfied with. Now, obviously he wasn't, because I didn't change his mind, but he was unable to change mine. And sitting there realizing that there is this kind of, it's very hard to see something that hasn't happened yet. And the fact is, humans are highly motivated to find solutions, to fix problems, especially when those problems are existential. And it's astonishing what humans can do, what that invisible hand can do. We have billions of brains on this planet that can be applied in all kinds of different ways. Now, yeah, most of them are stupid, but a bunch of them are not. And so I think a little bit of faith in your fellow man is warranted in moments like that. Now, Carlz, I'm sick of you slacking on the job. Honestly.
I'm sick of technology. Can I tell you? I'm not having fun.
10 minutes I've been holding this fort on my own. There's 500 people watching, but 450 of them are asleep, and the other 50 are currently punching their screen, desperately waiting for you to come on.
Well, I'm here.
Whoa!
Now
Whoa! Sorry. That was a bit of a. Sorry. Show me that jump cut again. I was not ready. I was not mentally or emotionally prepared for that.
I'm not emotionally prepared. I'm not having fun tonight. I do not know how I swear someone comes into my office and unplugs things and downloads things, and then that's it. So for whatever reason, my computer is not working. I don't know why, but I'm now on my iPad.
Wow. Well, look, we are honored to have you at all. You missed me gloating about how good my technology has been. Did you know I figured out how to fix the Roadcaster?
Which is?
Threaten to open a box that has a new USB cable. Don't actually open the box. Just spend the money, bring it home from the shop, sit it on the table, and then when you try it one last time just to see, it will work flawlessly and continue to work flawlessly for now 6.5 days without missing a single solitary beat, whilst $44 worth of cable goes unused in box sitting on the bench. But if I take this back to the shop, you know what's going to happen, right? You know what's going to happen.
Nothing could be worse than this. Look at this fucking schmozzle. Excuse my French.
That's not a great reflection on you. I could actually show you my studio, and it's not completely embarrassing right now. I'm not going to because the camera's like way over there. But it's not. Normally, my studio is complete. It's just this box that looks pretty, and the rest is a war zone. But honestly, it's actually not so bad right now. All right. So, are you able to do a full show, or are we just like?
Well, conveniently.
Okay, there we
conveniently,
go.
because I am Sans laptop and I'm flying to China on Thursday, I've gone out and bought myself an iPad Air that I could use as my device. Aren't I lucky? Because that's currently what I'm on, and I only bought this thing an hour ago.
So what I'm hearing you say, these aren't the words you used, but the new CEO at Apple has figured out how to get the hardcore Apple nerds to spend a lot more money, and that is just upload viruses, make it all break. And their response will not be, Apple's a crap, I'm moving away from Apple. It will be, how can I give you more of my money, dear master?
I just need to find this comment. Where did it go? Someone was saying, here we go, Miles. This is not a reflection of our cable management. This is a result of me pulling it all apart in the last 5 minutes because nothing was working. Normally, well managed, but tonight, not so much. But anyway, you guys aren't here for my technological problems.
No. There's one last thing that needs to be said. I need to preserve the honor of G here, because every time G walks into a room that has that kind of cable management, he instantly has an epileptic fit. That man knows how to lay a cable. That man knows, honestly, it's like if Jesus walked through a hospital and everyone who was sick got well. G walks through a room and all of the cables just straighten themselves out and tape themselves in all the right places. It is
evidently not these ones.
Power. Not those ones. He hasn't walked through that room yet.
Well, just to clarify, let me tell you what's actually wrong. So I have a teleprompter in front of me that is my second screen that my camera is currently shooting through. And you'll see this when I turn around. See how it has those words on it? For whatever reason, I can't get those words off that screen. The program's not open. I can't delete the app. There is nothing open on my computer for that to be showing, thus my frustration. Anyway, problem for another day.
Just a little look. If we want it to be conspiratorial, it's the deep state.
Dude, I'm convinced. So today, just as we're on the topic, just so you guys can get an understanding of my frame of mind, okay? I have the label printer that I print your shipping labels from. And for whatever reason, unbeknownst to me and the company that makes it and Apple, intermittently, something happens and it just stops working. So for a good 2.5 hours today, I was just trying to get the label printer to work. That's the kind of frame of mind I'm in.
So, Carlz, tell me how you feel about Jacinta Allan. I think this is a good time for me to ask you that question.
Do you want me to get really mad?
would love
This might be the moment. Spicy
we
Carlz
go
literally
viral when you
implodes.
get mad.
All right. Here's what I prepared earlier.
You've gone black.
Oh, why?
Oh, there we go. Well, you can't go back now. That's the rules. You can't go back.
Oh, we're going to have this problem because I'm on this. Is it going to allow me to have another tab? No. Oh, God. Okay, hang on. We're going to have to go black for a second. Excuse me. No, hang on. Will that work? Can I share a screen? I don't even know how to use this iPad yet. Shit. This is a schmozzle if I ever saw. Can you see me?
Look, that's your best angle. Stick with that.
What can you see me?
Black. It's just a black screen, but you know what? Go with it. It's great.
Right. Okay. Well, in that case, I can't pull anything up tonight because I'm going to go black.
Well, no, just go black and pull it up and then come back.
Okay. All right.
Once you go black, you can come back. That's what we're proving tonight.
Well, do you want to tell people the latest with Jacinta Allan?
Well, which bit?
All of it. All of it.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, I will have you know that Queen Jacinta has announced that for the modest sum of $1 billion, she is going to have 200,000 potholes fixed around the state of Victoria. I'm sure you've heard the wonderful news, especially if you live in Victoria. That meme that says, I've paid my taxes, the potholes will be filled any minute now, that is about to come true. There are a couple of sort of technical, difficult details, and I don't want to be a downer, but let's just sort of go through a couple of the concerns and questions I have. Firstly, how the fuck did we get to having 200,000 documented potholes that they know about and can send out a crew to fix? For perspective, when the massive floods came through in 2022, flooded huge parts of northern and northwestern Victoria, the total damage in terms of the number of potholes filled across swathes, I'm talking thousands upon probably tens of thousands of kilometers of roads combined that went underwater. And water is the main killer. That's what causes potholes. Water and trucks are the two big things, and especially when they're happening at the same place at the same time. They filled in about 75,000 potholes after a massive flood event that washed across the top of road after road, flowing fast, eroding, tearing out the substrate, etc. Right, 75,000 potholes. So 200,000 potholes has got to be a couple of years worth of potholes. You'd have to think that maybe they haven't sort of kept up, and you'd think that maybe they haven't kept up. In fact, you know what? If you can't share things, let me start pulling a few things up here. You'd think maybe they haven't,
ready to go.
You'd think maybe they hadn't been keeping up. And, you know, what's interesting is not only have they not been keeping up because the spending hasn't been increasing, but actually they have dropped the standards at which roads have to be kept in order to hide, in my opinion, the lack of road maintenance. Now, this is out of an ombudsman's report in Victoria. It's figure 13 from page 17. I can't remember the name of the report itself. Now, what this is, vertically, these are the years. You've got 2019 through to 2025. And then horizontally, you've got the different categories. Now, most of them are relatively uninteresting, but the road length meeting cracking standard metropolitan is an outlier. Now, what this basically is, there is a certain amount of cracking in the surface of the road that is kind of to be expected. Roads are actually very dynamic. They move and they flex, and that's a part of what makes them survive as long as they do with massive trucks driving over them. But as they flex, cracking can start to appear, and that is a precursor to pitting and chunks coming out, and that's a precursor to your proper potholes. So cracking matters. Now, they have a target they have to meet of the amount of cracking that is considered acceptable. Now, I don't know exactly what that number represents, but the target is 93.1. 93.1 watts, I'm not sure, but that's what it is. Their actual in that particular year, 2019-20, was 95. So they exceeded the target. But have a look at what happens to the target as we go through the years to the right. In 2020-21, it goes up to 95. Then it goes down to 92, then it goes down to 88, then it goes down to 84, and then it goes down to 81.3. You'll be shocked, I am sure, to learn that it just so happens that they've come in ahead of their target. They came in at 87.6 in the most recent data from 2024-25, which sounds amazing because they exceeded the target by 6 of whatever the hell we are actually talking about. I don't actually know. The thing is, they only came in ahead of target because they moved the target. They're lowering the targets. They're allowing themselves to have more cracking in metropolitan roads. Now, I've actually said to people, I feel like I see more cracks. And you got all the crazy paving effect, and they drizzle all the tar and what have you in there. And I said to someone literally, I don't know, 3-4 months ago, I said, I feel like the roads are cracking a lot more. No, I think what it is roads are being allowed to remain cracked a lot more. And we can actually see that in this data here. So not only do they have 200,000 potholes that need to be fixed, they've got a whole bunch of roads that should be out of spec, but are considered not to be out of spec. And they're going to spend $1 billion of our dollars, of your dollars, because I don't live there anymore, $1 billion of your dollars, Carly, thank you for paying taxes, to fix this particular problem. Now, what I love about this, what I just think is so great, which one is it? It's this one here. Well, there's a couple of things. I've shared before my own journey with potholes. So what a lot of people may not know was that $1 billion in pothole repairs was also announced in October 2024. This happened to me in 2025 on the Hume. The announcement in 2024 contained an explicit reference to the Hume Highway, which is where I was when that happened to me, and to the Prince's Highway and the fixing of potholes there. Well, as someone who drove the Hume Highway in both directions just about every week in 2025, I can tell you potholes are a freaking menace on that road, despite $1 billion being promised in late 2024. And of course, here we are now in early or mid 2026, and they're having to promise a chunk more money again. I'm still not done. Couple more pictures just to really, really drive the point home. We all remember this particular gem. This is a good one. Down near Nanargoon, 28 cars in total in the end, ripping wheels off, destroying tires, bending rims, bending suspension. Yeah, that's the reality of Victoria's roads right now. But if you're not angry yet, you probably hold on to your hats. I'm getting there, getting through the image files here. $1 billion. Sounds like a lot of money, doesn't it? Must be hard to find $1 billion in the state budget to be able to fix the road. Oh, what's this? The Westgate Tunnel blew out by $6 billion. You mean you could have spent $1 billion on the roads and the maintenance 6 times over just with the budget blowout on the tunnel that no one is using? Oh, and sorry, just one last thing. Who was the infrastructure minister responsible for the the Westgate Tunnel and responsible for all the other infrastructure projects that blew out? Oh, that's right. It was the incredibly talented and absolutely flawless, can do no wrong Jacinta Allan. So Jacinta Allan now is scrambling to find $1 billion to fix very real potholes that are a very real problem and are destroying people's cars and affecting productivity, and no doubt here and there causing a couple of crashes as well. And she's having to scramble to find money to do it. And in fact, she's going to add it to the state's credit card. Why? Because she presided over some of the most badly run, extortion-prone, budget blowout infrastructure projects in the history of the state. So when you ask me to tell everybody what's going on with Jacinta, well, there's other things I could go to, but that's the one that I assume you kind of wanted me to talk about.
No, there's more. I made a reel. I don't know. Can you get on Instagram?
I can, yeah.
Yeah, if you go to Instagram.
I don't like it.
And pull up my profile. So I've had a really interesting week. Last week, I made a video about this all comes back to Jacinta, don't worry. But I made a video about Adrian Portelli and his new petrol station. And I said, once again, he's in the news and Aussies are shitting on someone for giving it a crack. And I went out there and I met Adrian on the weekend and we had a good yarn. And what is so ridiculous is that Adrian and his team had the idea for the petrol station and brought it to market in 6 months. You guys can sit there and hate billionaires all you like. They are the people who get it done. Our government, Victoria, Labor government for almost 20 years, still can't fix the problems they created. You want to talk about potholes. Why weren't they being fixed in the first place? That's because she let potholes go. She let youth criminals go repeatedly so they can keep reoffending and traumatizing everyone in this fucking state. She's also allowed all the major highways and all the major government-run roads go into complete decay. There's weeds that are over 1 meter high. There's graffiti and rubbish everywhere. She made no effort to clean that up. Why? Because she pulled back the budget on all this. And also, she repealed the bail laws. Add to that the crazy government spending on all our major infrastructure projects, which, by the way, you talked about $6 billion over budget, probably because the CFMEU took $15 billion of it, whilst Jacinta and her fucking head honcho, Dan Andrews, presided over the whole thing. The reason this state is going to shit is because these two people, Jacinta and her fucking stooge friend, Dan Andrews, were the ones who implemented all the policies that allowed for this colossal waste. Almost $100 billion of debt was incurred under Daniel Andrews. Jacinta has gone one better and doubled it in just 2.5 years. $200 billion of debt. We in Victoria are paying over $1 million an hour in interest. To be really clear, that is interest. You get nothing for this money. And on top of that, just to really piss you off, you sit here and you crap on all the billionaires like Gina Reinhart and Adrian Portelli. That money that they make gets reinvested in the economy. It makes jobs and it actually helps people like you. You know what doesn't happen with that $1 billion of interest that we're paying every couple of months? It goes to BlackRock. It goes to Vanguard. It goes to the big 4 banks. It goes to the sovereign wealth funds. You're making almost trillionaires even richer, because our government doesn't know how to manage money. So you want to sit here and piss off the people who are actually trying to make this country and this state better, and you sit here and you fucking dunk on Portelli, but no one gives a shit that we have $200 billion of debt, and we pay that. You and I, the taxpayer, we pay it. That's our money that comes out of our pay packet, that every time we spend money in this state, we are giving that money to Vanguard, to BlackRock, to State Street, to the big 4 banks. You know what they do with that money? They go and live a really good life. They have their super yachts. They have their mega fucking mansions across the world. We pay for that. We pay for it. And yet, Victoria is probably likely to vote that cunt back in. Sorry, I'm pissed off.
Wow. You always have a go at me when I drop a C-bomb.
It needed it tonight. I've had a gutful of this crap. I've had a gutful. But can you open Instagram? It does it better for me when I'm not as worked up.
Hang on. But no. Before we move on, there have been some ripper comments. The chat is going off. Carl's getting so fired up I can light my cigarette off my speakers. Super spicy Carlz, love spicy Carlz, lots of that stuff. But here for the rage. I dished some out earlier. All right, so the stripper poles got quite a feature in the comments there for a minute. I'm probably not gonna be able to find them all, but someone said they need the stripper poles to hold up the tunnel.
Yeah.
And then someone made the point that if there were strippers on the poles, then a lot of the male drivers would slow down. I mean,
true.
a new taxpayer-funded campaign, strippers save lives. I'm just saying, like, I think it could work.
Just on this, like, I know we're preaching to the choir, right? I know most of you guys probably agree with me. But I put up this reel that I'm going to get you to play in a second, and it's important because I just point out the double standards. And it's not a liberal versus Labor, left versus right. So just to really round out this story, sorry, I am really worked up. I've had a crap day. Anyway, so I made this reel about Portelli talking about his petrol station, right? He's currently offering $1 fuel. It's the exact same model Costco currently run. Costco have done this for years without everyone getting upset about it. You have to be a member of Costco to access their fuel. Portelli has done a similar thing, but instead of joining Costco, you join LMCT Plus. And it's like the cheapest option is $100 for the year, and you can go right now to Preston and put $1 unleaded in your car. That's it. Yet, for whatever
I love that it's
reason,
Preston. That's my old stomping ground. I grew up in Preston.
can I tell you, going across to that socialist hellhole was traumatic. But I was there. I was there with my big dinosaur burning Jeep, and I put 65 litres of petrol into Dexter for $65.
Oh, so you're a member now?
Oh, yeah. I put my money where my mouth is.
You're a member, not a number. I mean, hang on, 65 litres at $2.50 would have been $1.50 difference. You would have come very close to getting the $100 back already. Maybe not quite, but you'd be damn close.
Exactly.
All right.
So this, hang on. Before we play this reel, let me just paint this for you guys. Adrian Portelli is deeply hated for no other reason than he's a billionaire. People hate it. Now, Adrian grew up in the West where I grew up. I grew up in Sunbury. Adrian grew up around St. Albans and Keilor, right? He's a little bit younger than me, but I know exactly the kind of upbringing he had. He literally has made it himself. And you guys can go off in the comments and tell me about government loopholes and he plays in a grey area. Sure. What about every other politician in this country? You don't think they're taking advantage of loopholes? What about everyone else in the NDIS? You don't think they're playing with loopholes? Why is it him specifically, right? And this is where I get point. And this is, I'm gonna make a point. People get worked up about Portelli because they're like, oh, it's the lotteries. He's scamming vulnerable people. As opposed to our government? I'm sorry. Why the double standard? People voluntarily sign up to his thing and they can cancel anytime. No one puts a gun to their head and says, you have to be a member. You can sit here and give me your sob story and saying, oh, but vulnerable people, my ass. What about all the vulnerable people who genuinely need the help from the NDIS and they're getting scammed by a bunch of people who come to this country knowing they can pilfer our resources and the government will do jack shit? What about Jacinta Allan, the highest paid premier in the country, paid more than Anthony Albanese, but is still able, on top of her $500,000 salary, is still able to get another $300,000 from the taxpayer to pay for her second home. So $800,000 from the taxpayer to not only fill her own pockets and pay off her second rental property, but she puts the entire state into debt of almost $200 billion, and we, Victorians, have to pay that debt back. You know who's not paying that debt back? Jacinta Allan. We are paying it. And then when people go off about Portelli, I'm like, why don't I see that anger towards Jacinta? Why don't I see that anger to all of these MPs? And by the way, guys, it's Liberal too. I'm only talking about Labor because they've been in power in Victoria for almost 20 years. They're all doing it. If they can expense it, if they can get it, they take it. And yet no one gets upset about it. What is it? Annika Wells and all her travel? Richard Miles? Albo, what do they call him? Airbus Albo? No one cares about that. But Portelli or Gina Reinhart, who do more for local communities than all of our politicians combined, do you think, guys, just use your brain for 1 minute. Do you think Jacinta Allan is giving anything out of her own pay packet back to Victoria? Be real with me for a second. Of that $500,000 that she gets paid as her salary, plus the $300,000 that she has taken from taxpayers for her second home, how much of that is she donating back to Victorians? I'll tell you how much. Sweet fuck all. Because every time she says she's going to give you something for free, we pay for it. I don't know why it's so fucking hard for people to understand it. The $180 she's giving us back for our rego, we are paying for that. Not Jacinta. She's getting pay rises. You and I are getting pay decreases because our money is not worth as much anymore. I don't know why this is such a foreign concept. And the point I made about Portelli is he is a private business. No one is forcing you to spend money with him. No one is saying you have to buy his shit. You don't have a choice to pay tax. You don't have a choice that land tax goes up and that we are paying $1 million an hour in interest. And in case it wasn't clear, let me make my point one more time. That interest that we pay on the $200 billion debt doesn't go to Victoria. It goes to Vanguard. It goes to BlackRock. It goes to foreign wealth funds out of the country. But please tell me why Gina and Adrian are so bad for this country.
All right. Now, everyone's loving it. Everyone's loving it.
Sorry. All right, put this fucking
podcast
reel
makes me
up.
feel better. I'm glad it's not just me. Lots of supportive comments. Is Topher on mute? Hang on, I'm trying to get to that comment. Is Topher on mute?
No, he just knows when to be quiet.
BN Bogani. Someone suggested earlier that I just have a nap. But guys,
to be fair, you did talk for a while.
Well, yeah, because you weren't here. That doesn't count. I
I'm
was
making up for
literally
it.
doing the heavy lifting for you because I had no choice. Now, listen, guys, I owe you an apology, and I mean this sincerely. Never in my life, when I started Topher, let alone when I started the Oddcast with Carly, did I dream that I would be the one putting Instagram reels from Carly on your screen.
How the tables have turned.
How the turntables. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. The good news is we're all getting sloshed tonight. Carly, which reel would you like me to play?
Okay, so the one on the left, the top one, billionaires versus
This
politicians.
One?
Yeah.
All right.
You have to unmute it.
Yeah, now I know how you feel. All right, hang on.
You got to start it again. So when you open it, go straight to the mute
Aussies are
button.
happy to drag billionaires for being greedy capitalists who leverage loopholes, but our politicians scamming taxpayers to fill their own pockets is cool. Like Jacinta Allan, the Premier of Victoria, claiming $175,000 a year from taxpayers for her Melbourne rental property, even though she is currently paid more than our Prime Minister on $512,000 per annum. We got to talk about it. I'm going to be upfront. I am pro-capitalist. I do not have a problem with people earning serious money, especially if they're out there working harder than everyone else. I personally love working hard and I love the rewards of that labor even more. So if Jacinta Allan was doing a good job as Premier, I think she should be paid well. However, $500,000 is a big number, and anyone in the private sector who was on that salary would be subject to KPIs and performance reviews. So let's have a look. Victoria is sitting on $200 billion of debt. You and I, the taxpayer, are paying over $1 million an hour in interest. That's over $24 million a day, or $8.7 billion a year in interest alone. We have absolutely nothing to show for that money. You and I are paying taxes to pay interest, which makes the big four banks, the international sovereign wealth funds, and the global asset managers very, 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 very wealthy. Yet all the people bitching about Adrian Portelli don't seem to care about that. During Daniel Andrews' tenure, the state's net debt grew by approximately $96 billion. And under Jacinta Allan, that debt has continued to climb at an accelerated rate, growing by more than $2 million every hour or $48 million every day. Imagine you and I work together in a private company. Each quarter, we walk into our boss's office and say, Bob, we've increased the company debt by $48 million a day. Can we have a pay rise? Bob is going to fire our asses and make sure we never get a job again. But in politics, you get a pay rise. Let's forget the money for a second and look at other performance indicators. Roads littered with potholes, $15 billion siphoned off to the CFMEU, $1 billion to not host the Commonwealth Games, a youth crime crisis where the state is at the mercy of delinquent teens, and instead of consequences, we do the old Rex Hunt catch, kiss, and release. A hollowed out police force, and God, I'm going to have to do part 2. But just to make you really see red, on top of her $500,000 salary, Jacinta has claimed over $290,000 from the taxpayer to fund a second home in Melbourne because she lives in Bendigo. But go off, Queens, channel all that rage at the billionaires whose life and business has absolutely no impact on your own. Economist James Buchanan spent his career explaining exactly why this happens. His public choice theory argues that politicians are not noble public servants operating above self-interest. They are rational actors just like everyone everyone else pursuing incentives. The only difference is the consequences for the behavior. In the private sector, bad decisions get punished by the market. Your business fails, your product gets rejected, and people vote with their money. In the public sector, there is no equivalent. The taxpayer absorbs the cost of every mistake, and the person who made it goes home to their taxpayer-funded second property. What bothers me is not that politicians have perks, it's the selective outrage from the peanut gallery. We scrutinize how billionaires earn their money, yet rarely ask how our politicians extract ours. You already know I'm doing part 2. So Aussies are happy to drag billionaires for being greedy capitalists who leverage loopholes.
So firstly, I'm pretty sure it is a freezing cold day in hell right now, because I just put Instagram on the screen. Secondly, you mentioned crime, and I'd like to bring in virtually in the form of a video a friend of the show, and I mean that sincerely, David Limbrick, because he shared an interesting story. Something made the news that I thought was interesting, and we've commented before how the tone has shifted. The news are now willing to report things that they weren't willing to report not so long ago, and I think this is another example of that. And David Limbrick, of course, a Libertarian MP in Victoria, one of the few good ones, sadly, without the support to really be able to make a lot of difference in a sort of practical, tangible way, but he's doing his best to be a voice. So this is what he had to say. Oh, hang on. I apologize.
Should business owners be able to protect themselves against criminals? Well, in one recent case, the local council said no. Check it out.
Shop owner is taking on town hall in a battle between security and street appeal. He's keeping controversial roller shutters despite the threat of a massive fine.
Closing up at 11 o'clock at night means bringing these security shutters down.
First 3 months of opening up the store, had a pretty hefty break-in. They kicked in the doors, stole $10,000 worth of stock.
But Monash Council has ordered Oakley sellers to get rid of them or risk a fine of $250,000.
Pretty frustrated and worried. Yeah, worried for my business. I've invested quite a lot of money into this.
Chris Thompson says thieves target his business multiple times every week. But according to Monash Council, the shutters are in breach of planning policy.
So the shop owner took this to VCAT, and one of the reasons given why they couldn't have these roller doors was that it would create, as I quote here, an inactive area that reduces the sense of safety for pedestrians. Well, I can tell you something else that reduces the sense of safety. It's people fighting with machetes, as was discussed. One of my staff members went down to talk to the shop owners, and this happened.
He got a knife. He got a knife. He got a knife. No. Oh my days.
I mean, check it out. This is just around the corner from the bottle shop. No wonder he wanted to protect his business from these guys. The mayor suggested alarm systems and CCTV and this sort of thing, but CCTV doesn't prevent crime. I've spoken to many businesses recently that reckon CCTV only provides something to give to the police to hopefully follow up later.
Which they
What
won't.
really needs to happen here is the council needs to allow business owners to do whatever they need to do to protect their businesses from criminals, because crime is out of control in this state. Should business owners be able to protect themselves against criminals?
So much to say out of that.
I have so much to say. I don't know if my blood pressure can take it.
So I want to pick up a couple of things. Firstly, if you're worried about the aesthetics of your street because of the reasonable steps shopkeepers have to take to prevent violent and property crime, then maybe you have a problem with violence and property crime. Maybe let's address the source of the problem, not the symptom. But actually, the thing I want to pick up on, and this is it's only a minor detail, so to speak, in the story, but this for me, they do this all the time everywhere, and it boils my blood. A $250,000 fine because the kind of shutters you have on your windows are not considered to be compliant with the planning scheme. Who comes up with that number? Like, I want to see a list of itemized damages. I want to see you justify to me every single freaking cent in that $250,000 fine. This is one of the most egregious things that we've allowed in our society is governments at all levels. This, it so happens, is local council, but this happens at federal, this happens at state. Governments at all levels are able to make up arbitrary fines and apply arbitrary numbers that they're going to punish you with. We see it with the e-Karen. What is it, $50-odd million per breach? We see it in all kinds of areas where they are simply trying to make the number scary. The number has no relationship with any kind of risk or cost or damages. It has no relationship with reality. We saw it during COVID with the level of fines for being outside of 5 kilometers or not wearing a mask or these kinds of nonsense things. They are picking numbers because they want them to be scary. This is extortion. This is not justice. This is not upholding the rights of victims. This is not ensuring that people cover the costs that they've incurred onto others. This has no relationship with any kind of natural justice, as you or I would understand that to be, making good on damages caused to somebody else. This has nothing to do with it. This is about control. This is because they can. And in my opinion, this is the smoking gun that crosses the line from government into genuine, outright organized crime, which is what I released a video on today. This, as much as it's only a detail in that story, and I get it, there's machetes and there's $10,000 worth of stuff being stolen. There's all this other stuff. The fact that they can pluck a number out of their ass and say, if you don't do as I say under our planning laws, it's going to cost you a house deposit and then some, is freaking disgusting. And that honestly lies at the heart of so much of the misplaced power that we have in our society. It freaking boils my blood.
It boils my blood too, but it's also just pretty much sums up everything that we have at the moment. I mean, our councils, our state government and our federal government have made it almost impossible for the average Australian to do business and to live an average life. If it's not the regulation and the bureaucracy, it's all the hoops the planning hoops that you have to jump through. It's all of the planning permits. It's all of the extra things that you have to pay to just do something so simply. And it's all done under the guise of, we're trying to make it safer for you. Honestly, I'm trying not to get worked up. What is safe about the country and the state we currently live in? The government thinks they're doing it for us, for our safety. I am at the threat of having my home broken into by a teenager with a machete. I've already had a car stolen from my house. I've been robbed twice in the last 2 years. You could be run off the road by one of these teenage delinquents and killed. And whoopsie daisies. That's the attitude. It is a level of callousness. It's beyond cavalier. I would say this honestly, I'm no psychologist, obviously, but there has to be a layer of sociopathy to this. You have to be cold-hearted to be seeing what is happening in front of your eyes and then still get up there at that podium in front of the press pack and say, I'm doing the right thing. The Labor Party is the right people for the job. And before anyone clips this and says, oh, Carly's just a sycophant for the Liberal Party, they're dead in the water. They're useless. They're not even worth talking about. That's how useless they are. I focus on the Labor government. They're the ones in power. They are the ones who, with a stroke of a pen, could immediately take action. You guys know how much I've campaigned about the youth crime, the bail laws, the castle law. They do not care. How many children, because apparently adults don't matter, but let's just boil it down to children. How many children in Victoria have been murdered by other children? We're not talking about a kid falling off their bike and scraping their knees. We're talking about young children who should be in school, who should be learning how to read and fucking write, and they're murdering each other with machetes. And it's another day in Victoria. And Jacinta will tell you and tell the entire country that we have the toughest bail laws, and she takes it seriously. And then the next day, someone gets stabbed to death. I just, like, it's beyond, like, I can understand the bureaucracy to a point. What I cannot get my head around, and I need it explained to me like a 5-year-old, is how anyone with a fucking heart in their body can sit there and listen to Jacinta and say, yeah, she's doing a good job. She's the right person. This is not about left versus right, Liberal versus Labor. This is about common sense and having a genuine fucking beating heart in your body to recognize this state is falling apart in every aspect. The civil decay, the youth crime, the middle class being eroded. Now, I saw a skit today. I was going to play it, but I can't bring up Instagram. It was by that Chris Kohler News. And he was making a joke. he was making a joke about the old 50-30-20 budgeting rule, and he was talking about the cost of living. And he's like, it was a skit, but most people now, their needs, as in their average that they're spending out of their pay packet, is almost 70% to put a roof over roof over their head, to go to the groceries and just do the bare minimum. 70% of your income. How much of that money is going to the government through taxes, through excises, through interest repayments? And this is the part that boils my blood. How can you defend this? That reel I made today, I've hit the socialist echo chamber. I've infiltrated. And what they write in the comments, Jacinta she's brave. She's the right woman. Only a woman could do this job. Only a woman like Jacinta. Are you joking?
Look, honestly, I've got to agree with that last point. I mean, you know, the number of women in the public service has tripled and the national debt has tripled. I'm not sure that that's a coincidence. I think only a woman could do that job, you know?
I don't disagree with you. I'm so sick. No, seriously, I am so sick of Labor, both at the federal level and the state level, holding that over our heads. Look how many women we've got in our fold. Can I tell you, you're not making it look good for women. Maybe this is their tactic. If we have all these women in and we run both the country and the states into the ground, maybe then people will go, hey, we should put the men back in the office. That's all I can think.
But Carly, what you're not acknowledging here is that they're helping, okay? You should be grateful. And if things aren't going quite to plan, that just means that you need to give them more of your taxes. They're going to have to write some more rules and a few more regulations. They're so close. They're so close, Carly. They're helping you, and they are so close to creating a utopia. Just a little bit longer, just a few more rules, a bit more debt, a slightly bigger budget, a little bit more tax, admittedly, but then you will be living in utopia. Then it will all click and you will understand it's just a little bit further down the road, Carly. That's all. You just got to trust them for a little bit longer.
Do you know what? Back to what I was talking about before, I talked about the billionaires. I went down. This is the first time I met Adrian. It was on Saturday when I went down there. I've shared stuff about him over the last 3 years, more to point out the hypocrisy, right? I guess after he knows that I've got his back, kind of thing. I went down there and he said to me, he's like, I very few people support me openly. He's like, I get a lot of support behind the scenes from very wealthy people. Very few people do it openly. And I thought to myself, isn't that indicative of Australian culture, right? How many people, and I'm going to call out some of you guys in the chats too, because I know you guys don't like Adrian. How many of you, if you met Adrian, would simply straight away be on the take? Hey, can you take me for a ride in your jet? Hey, can you help me with this? Can you give me some money? That is the life of a billionaire. I now know Adrian's my 4th billionaire that I know. Of all the people I know who have over $100 million of wealth, and to be fair, I don't hang out with these people. I just know them through my network. That is all they're seen as, cash cows, right? And I'm not trying to make you guys feel sorry for rich people. That's not my point. But imagine yourself being in a position where you've worked your whole life to accrue this wealth, and you've built these businesses, and every person you speak to sees you as an ATM, not as a person anymore. Imagine being Gina, imagine being Adrian, and then you have these hit pieces in the news every single day. Tax the billionaires, fuck the billionaires. We in Australia, not all, I'm not trying to generalize, but we in Australia have cultivated this attitude of just disdain for success. And it's a socialist mindset. And now we're breeding it through our education system. Resent anyone who's tried, resent anyone who's had even a small amount of success. Anyone who has wealth is genuinely evil. And this is why I'm so hard on Gen Z. Because you want to know how we end up with Jacinta and how we're likely to have another Labor win in Victoria? Because you don't reckon?
No.
I don't know.
No, keep going.
We
Don't
won't.
break the flow. Don't move it.
We won't if I have my way.
You've
But
got to finish your point, and then I've got to go back to a previous point, and then we can talk about whether Jacinta is going to win Victoria.
my point is, unfortunately, for so many Australians, they would rather sit there and pick on, the billionaires than face the fact of their political apathy is the reason this country is going down the drain. Because they didn't necessarily take it seriously, maybe they donkey voted, maybe they don't really care. They have been part of the reason we have had such terrible leaders for the better part of 20 years, state and federally, and now we are facing almost $1 trillion debt as a country, right? When, what was it, 2006, we had no debt.
No
So
net debt.
No debt, sorry.
Again, just for precision, the word net is important there. We had some debt, but we had more cash on hand than we had debt. So on a net basis, there was no debt, but technically there was some debt there.
Okay, sorry, just
Just
But
for precision.
in 20 years, from almost zero net debt to almost $1 trillion of debt. And I cannot emphasize this enough because it doesn't seem to be clear. For a country that hates billionaires so much, boy, do we love giving our tax to them. And just, Topher, can you maybe help me say this in a more succinct way? Because obviously I'm worked up. We as a country and as a state borrow money from sovereign wealth funds. This money isn't just pulled out of the ether. We withdraw it from somewhere. Someone with money, we go and pull it down and we spend it on our infrastructure projects, whatever. Every time you hear the debt's increasing, whether in Victoria or in Australia, there is someone who is making bank off our debt repayments. Those people are Vanguard. What's his name? What's the name that Larry? What's his name?
Larry Fink.
Larry Fink of BlackRock, State Street, all the nefarious billionaires that you think of, the lizard people and the Illuminati. We are literally giving them our money voluntarily through our taxes.
Carly, let me paraphrase a lot of what we've discussed already in this show. We're 57 minutes in. I want to go into uncharted territory here.
Oh God.
And quote J.R.R. Tolkien. Oh, sorry, quote C.S. Lewis. Slightly different. Like it's not Tolkien. It's just something slightly different. Sorry, everybody. It's drink time. Of all tyrannies, a tyranny sincerely exercised for the good of its victims may be the most oppressive. It would be better to live under robber barons, i.e. mafia, actual organized crime. It would be better to live under them than under omnipotent moral busybodies. The robber baron's cruelty may sometimes sleep. His cupidity may at some point be satiated. But those who torment us for our own good will torment us without end, for they do so with the approval of their own conscience. They may be more likely to go to heaven, yet at the same time likelier to make a hell of earth. This very kindness stings with intolerable insult. To be cured against one's will and cured of states which we may not regard as disease is to be put on a level of those who have not yet reached the age of reason or of those who never will, to be classed with infants, imbeciles, and domestic animals. If that isn't a direct summary of the modern reality that we live in this woke world, then I don't know what is. He absolutely 100% nailed that.
My frustration is trying to get to the heart of this. I don't even know what you call it. I don't know what the word is, but what is it that has got people under such a spell? Is it the promise of no one will hurt your feelings because they'll say your pronouns, we'll do the welcome to country? Is that all it took for you to basically surrender all of your autonomy to allow the, like, I don't understand it. I genuinely don't. I don't have the mechanism to make me understand how these people think we are in a genuinely good place. You go into X, you go into the comment threads on Facebook, Instagram, It's full of Labor supporters who think Albo is a genuinely good dude. Like after his address, right? His 3-minute address where he said nothing. People thought that was fantastic. He was stoic. Guys, he was stoic. He was making a really conscious effort as a solid leader to make us all feel safe. Like, what is it? And I keep looking back through all my Marxist books, all my Soviet Union books. How did these people fall for it? And today, Jacinta Allan. Yesterday it was the Rego, 20% off. It's the $1 billion for the roads, which, by the way, she's the one that allowed them to decay. And also, it's the graffiti and the maintenance of all the freeways. All things she was in control of this whole time. All things she could have fixed anytime. Remember, how many reels have I made about burnout cars on sidewalks or the frigging Christmas tree coming out of the pavement?
Clearly not enough, because not all of them have been cleaned up. Can you just hurry up and churn out a few more reels, please?
You know, this is her own problem that she's made. And yet I don't understand. I really don't.
Well, so let me see if I can help you a little bit here. You've heard that expression. It's been used to death now. You know, hard men create good times create soft men create hard times create hard men, blah, blah, blah. Around and around we go. And yeah, people go, oh, that was said by Hitler. It's a fascist thing. No, it predated him by a long way. He just picked it up and used it. Let's have a look at a more sophisticated version of that same exact sentiment, because I think if you're asking how does this happen, I think this is a pretty good place to start looking. Look, this entire episode is just going to be me quoting other people. I'm not going to say anything original. I'm just going to put quotes on your screen and read them. Alexander Fraser Titler.
So Aussies are happy to rag billionaires for being
Sorry. Technical issues.
Can you please not quote yourself when I'm quoting someone old and dead? Could you show some respect to the dead, please?
As you were.
A democracy cannot exist as a permanent form of government. It can only exist until the voters discover that they can vote themselves largesse from the public treasury. From that moment on, the majority always votes for the candidates promising the most benefits from the public treasury, with the result that a democracy always collapses over loose fiscal policy. Side note, this is at the heart of the Cloward Piven strategy for those that are interested in Cold War history and social movements, the long march through the institutions, all the rest of it, the Cloward Piven strategy. All of this is built around the aim of collapsing capitalism through excessive welfare. This is always followed by a dictatorship. The average age of the world's greatest civilizations has been 200 years. These nations have progressed through this sequence from bondage. So this is the more sophisticated version of that cycle that we talked about. The cycle, as explained by Alexander Fraser Titler, is from bondage to spiritual faith, from spiritual faith to great courage, from great courage to liberty, from liberty to abundance, from abundance to selfishness, from selfishness to apathy, from apathy to dependence. That's where I'd say we are now. I think we're there. We've gone past apathy. We're now into the dependence. What happens after dependence? Carly, how are your eyes? Can you read that for me? I'm just having to, what's our future, Carly? What does it say after dependence?
I can't see where you're looking.
From dependence back into bondage.
Where are you reading that?
It's in the quote that's on your screen. I forgot that you were on an unfamiliar screen, so I didn't, I threw you under the bus a little bit there. Yeah, I threw you under the bus there. I was trying to be funny. From selfishness to apathy, from apathy to dependence, from dependence back into bondage. If you had to point out where are we in Western civilization now in that progression, you could maybe argue that we're still in apathy and not quite in dependence, but I think that's a tough thing to argue. You certainly couldn't argue that we're anywhere before apathy. We are deep into apathy. I think we are deep into dependence. And I think, I did my first video pointing out the threshold that we'd crossed back then, which was 50% of Australian households were now dependent on income from the government in one form or another, whether that was welfare or a government job or a government contract. 50% of Australian households depended on government money to make ends meet from one month to the next. And that was true more than 10 years ago, and that number has gotten worse since then. We are deep into the dependent stage. So
we are.
Hey guys,
and with the bloated, with a bloated public service, and a bunch of people dependent on either NDIS or Centrelink. I hate saying this. I hate saying it, but we deserve it, man. We deserve it.
We do.
Everything that's coming to us, we deserve it. I hate saying that.
However, I am not fatalistic. I'm not fatalistic.
I'm an
because what we
accelerationist
have-
for sure.
Well, you're an accelerationist. I'm not even that. What we have that past generations and past civilizations have not had on their side is a genuine taste of genuine freedom. Now, if I'm honest, I would rather be in the US when the freedom apocalypse comes than here. Why? Well, because there's about 100 million people willing to take up arms in defense of their own personal freedom and that of their families. They have about 400 million guns between them and about 1 trillion rounds of ammunition. And that's actually not just a turn of phrase. It is genuinely up around there, right? They've got 150 odd million gun owners with 400 million odd guns, and between them, well over a couple of thousand rounds of ammunition on average each, obviously mostly concentrated into the hands of people that have stockpiled a whole bunch. It's funny, just another aside. Oh, actually, I believe this might be a tangent.
Oh.
I believe we discussed last week the possibility of you singing.
I
the
can
song.
sing Tangent Time.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, Carly, with Tangent Time.
Tangent time, tangent time, tangent time, tangent time, tangent time. Woo! I think I
Good
did that
job.
with more
Nice.
razzle dazzle.
You know what? That was respectable. That was, I will credit that. That was respectable. Well done. If lawful gun owners were the problem, there wouldn't be any gun grabbing politicians left, right? There's 150 million plus gun owners with 400 million odd guns and about 1 trillion rounds of ammunition. If lawful gun owners in America were the problem, there wouldn't be anyone but lawful gun owners left. They would have been shot by now. The astonishing thing is how little violence actually takes place, given the sheer percentage of the population that has at their disposal the means of that kind of violence. Now, the same, by the way, is true in Australia, although the numbers are radically different. We have, I'm led to believe, something like 4 million legal guns in Australia, plus another approximately 1 million illegal guns in the hands of hundreds of thousands, if not over 1 million Australians. I'm not sure of the exact numbers. If gun owners as a category, as a class, were the problem, we'd know about it. Right, we would have a much bigger problem than we have. I'll remind you of this just while I'm on this tangent. After the Desi incident, where Desi, we believe, was allegedly, and I've spoken to eyewitnesses now, and I believe it to be true, shot 2 police officers there on that property in Popunka. We saw this crackdown on anyone who was associated with this sort of sovereign citizen ideology. In West Australia, I might not get the numbers exactly right, but I believe the number was 77 or 70. I don't remember which. Houses were raided by the police. These are people with allegedly sovereign citizen or sovereign citizen adjacent views expressed publicly online. These are meant to be the most dangerous of the dangerous, the sorts of people who would be like Desi Freeman, the sorts of people who would supposedly want to kill cops and all the rest of it. They raided 70 or 77 houses. And what's incredible is that to this day, I looked it up again only a couple of weeks ago, which is now long after the event, the only charges laid were to do with incorrect storage violations. No charges regarding violence, no charges regarding unlicensed or unregistered, no charges regarding anyone running, resisting arrest, refusing to hand anything over, nothing. And you know they would have thrown the book at these guys. They would have absolutely thrown anything they could get. If they'd found drugs, if they'd found, I don't know, anything. And you know they looked. Storage violations, it's the best they could do, right?
Yeah.
And that tells you something. So if we are faced with a situation where this civilization's time is coming to an end, and I'm not convinced that we are, by the way, I'm actually extremely optimistic about the future. I think we've got to get through a sucky period to get there. But actually, I think fast forward only 5 to 8 years, we'll be through that, and things are actually going to be a lot better. I think this phase of renewal is going to be much faster than historically it has been. But I would rather be somewhere with a lot of guns than where I am right now. And people say, why would you want to be somewhere with a lot of guns? They'd all be out on the street shooting. No, they're not going to be out on the street shooting. You know why? Because there's a lot of other people around with guns. Everybody behaves themselves. An armed society is a polite society. I genuinely believe that to be true. And if we are in the phase that we're in, honestly, getting stuck in America wouldn't be such a bad thing.
Do you know what's interesting as well? Like, again, I just keep bringing it back to what I saw on the weekend. The amount of people who were throwing hate at Adrian, right? And yet, I mean, there was a lot of people obviously supporting him going there. And I look at that and go, these people will literally bite the hand that feeds them. They don't know how good they have had it or how much other wealthy businesses contribute to our economy. But instead, they'd rather fixate on the MPs and the politicians who say what they want to hear, not do what they want to see done, just say what they want to hear. The words and the presentation of the words matters more than the actual action that follows.
Well, this is sorry, this is probably got to be part of the drinking game as well. Politicians don't benefit from keeping promises; they benefit from making promises. And one of the worst mistakes you could make as a politician is to fix a problem, because now you can't promise to fix it in the future. Now, if you want proof of this, if you think I'm being too cynical, have a look at what just went down with the Southern Poverty Law Center in the US. Are you across this, Carly? Have you seen this story?
I was going to bring this up.
Holy shit. Okay, for those who don't know, there has been a grand jury indictment. Now, let me explain what that is, because we don't quite have the same thing here in Australia. There is an accusation and there is a verdict in Australia. So have you been accused or not? Have charges been laid or not? And then were you found guilty or not? In America, there's this weird halfway thing for certain kinds of crimes in certain jurisdictions where they take the evidence before a jury and the jury simply decides, is there actually a case here in the first place? Before we go through all the palaver, before we run this thing and spend all the money and the time and destroy people's lives, is there a case here? And if that jury decides, yes, there's a case here, it's called a jury indictment. And in other words, yes, now it can proceed to trial. It doesn't mean there will be convictions. Just to be clear, it's different to a conviction as in a guilty verdict in court. It's a jury indictment. So the Southern Poverty Law Center have had a jury indictment against them for funding the Unite the Right rally. Now, you won't be able to bring up any pictures of this, will you?
I can't.
I
had it all saved though.
Yeah. So let me just try and grab. Can you while I'm doing this, you talk about these Unite the Right rallies. This was the Charlottesville rally that was weaponized against Trump specifically.
Donald Trump. So when he did the whole "there's good people on both sides" thing, and they clipped him saying that about the KKK and the Nazis, every single thing going all the way back to that was like 2017, I think it was, Charlottesville, has been fabricated. So the SPLC has been paying the grand wizards of the KKK and other key antagonist groups to go and commit the race crimes or the hate crimes because they are in such debt. They have no hate crimes. They have to manufacture them because if they didn't, the SPLC wouldn't exist. They couldn't get the funding. They can't extract the money out of the rich philanthropists. So what's the best thing? If you see that all of the hate crime is drying up, you pay the KKK to create some. Like, it's just truly extraordinary, the lengths at which the left will go to hold power. They will stage everything. They will lie about everything so long as they get the result that they want, which is consolidation of power and also leverage. This stuff is crazy. I'd hate to know who else they're funding. Are they funding other YouTube antagonizers? Are they behind other massive campaigns? Like, now everything's on the table. Everything's under question. Yeah. And just to be clear, guys, the SPLC is the figurehead. It's the people the media always quotes. They are the biggest players in this.
Yeah. So what's incredible is what we now know, or what a jury has agreed is true enough to go to trial, is that the Southern Poverty Law Center paid $270,000 to one individual over a period of time for that person to become a core part of the organizing team and an animator, an energizer behind the team. So this is like when the FBI reach out to someone and they groom them to become a bomber or to become a drug dealer or to become any of those things. And then they arrest them for the crime that they probably wouldn't have committed if it weren't for the FBI getting alongside them and being like, hey, what do you think? Right. So they literally paid $270,000. Now, this is donors' money, and this is at the core of the court case. So the court case is essentially a fraud case What they're saying is, or what the case is alleging, is that the Southern Poverty Law Centre's business model is that it gets donations on the basis that there is a huge problem. However, it has been committing fraud by making the problem appear to exist when it doesn't, or appear to be bigger than what it is, which is a pretty open and shut case of fraud if they're found guilty of doing that. Now, this is some of the coverage. This is the CNBC coverage. Now, I want to ask, there's some woman of color has been knocked in the head there. There's, memorials and various other things, white people with guns, all the rest of it. Now, when $270,000 has been paid to an organizer, and oh, by the way, how do you think they all turned up with tiki torches on the day? It's a bit like when you get these events that happen, and the very next day there's all these professionally printed signs. You're kind of like, it's like there's like a big money logistical operation at work in the shadows here, etc. So, and this is not even the only incident. This is just the one that's kind of making the headlines and is the most sort of obvious at the moment. It is extraordinary what they've gotten away with. And at last, I've been saying it for ages, until people start going to prison, nothing gets better. It looks like in the case of the SPLC, people might go to prison. But understand, this business model is not unique to the SPLC. This is, in fact, the business model of every government department, of every charity, of every human rights organization. If the problem gets fixed, their business model dies. And so they actually don't want to fix any of these problems. And the same is true of Jacinta Allan.
Really nice super chat for you there as well.
Oh, wow. Okay. It can razor. Is that like sort of like Occam's razor? Am I misunderstanding something? Anyway, apologies if I've got the name wrong. As an Afghan vet, more people should learn how to fire a gun. It's not only cathartic, but useful info for when you get conscripted to the next US war. Props to you, Topher, best political YouTuber coming out of Oz, and get a good coffee with this. Well, thank you. That's really kind. I really do. I genuinely, that moves the needle for me. $100 makes a difference. Thank you so much. Thank you for going to Afghanistan. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry that we have fucked you around that badly. We sent you over there. We got involved in that war. And for what? Like, I'm sorry. Honestly, I can't change it, but I'm sorry. I'm sorry that we did that to you, to all of your brothers, to everyone else that fought. What an absolute clusterfuck. And what an indictment not against the soldiers, but against the politicians, and against the absolutely corrupt, what's it called? The military industrial complex. What an absolute criminal racket that is. Look, I agree with you on guns. Guns are therapy, in my view, almost as much as cigars. I would genuinely put them at about the 90% of cigars level. Now, having a cigar whilst going out shooting some targets, now that would be the ultimate. That would be, for me, absolute perfection. I'm a bit of a stickler for long range. I have an ambition of someday hitting a target at more than 1,000 meters with a rifle, which obviously I'd need to be with someone who really knows what they're doing, and that's going to take some time to work up the skill. With a 5.56, with the Steyr, which obviously you'd be familiar with, not you, Carly, but the commenter. With the Steyr, I was actually pretty good out to about 600 meters. I could get the bullet drop pretty good out to about 600 meters, which for that size round is not bad. Beyond that, no, I didn't have the skill. I didn't have the shooting technique to really be good enough. And then, of course, as I'm sure you know, once you start to push out to a kilometer, and then beyond that is insane. All the maths that comes into it, and that's beyond my level. But I'd love to be able to hit just a 2 foot by 1 foot or 2 foot by 18 inch target at 1,000 meters. That's an ambition of mine. That I would love to be able to work towards someday. But I live in a country where that's incredibly difficult. And I've never applied for a gun license here in Australia, but I have a strong suspicion, given many of the things I've been involved in over the last 5 years, that I would be deemed to not be a fit and proper person. So I probably will never bother to apply for a gun license in this country. But I will certainly stand up for shooters' rights. That is for sure.
I don't know anything about what you kind of talked about. All I know is firing off machine guns is real fun. I've done it many times.
In Vietnam, when it's tethered to a wall.
No, in America, I've fired off. Was it like, is it an M60 where the bullets are like this big?
Oh, the M60 is heavy. Yeah.
Like
that's
boom, 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 boom. That's like the thing on the tank, right? That's really fun. You're like, good.
So I was only in the reserves. I only ever did training, and so whenever I bring up the fact that I was in the infantry, I sort of feel really awkward because a lot of people bring that up like, oh, look at me, and that's not what I mean. I'm just saying for context, I did some training, and with the infantry training, and back then we did the same recruit course and the same IETs as what the regs did. Oh, no, sorry, that's not true. We did the same recruit course as what the regs did. We did the same IETs, but broken up into 2-week blocks. And so one night we were doing, we did a week-long defensive exercise, miserable, digging holes, laying out barbed wire, setting up fields of fire, doing nightly watch duties with, going out to do ambushes in the middle of the night and then getting back at the break of dawn, and then you're off to do other stuff, going without sleep, all the rest of it. Nothing compared to real actual combat. Let me be clear. I'm not asking for anyone's sympathy. However, you got to train, you got to have a taste of it. And that's all it really was a taste of it. But there's two things I remember: how much the ground shakes when I don't think it was even the big tanks. It was some sort of an armored tracked vehicle that was a part of the exercise. And you felt it before you heard it. And genuinely, this wasn't one of the main battle tanks. I doubt that they would have involved any of the main battle tanks in a reservist training exercise. We're not worth that kind of money. They would have just had some sort of something else. But I remember also we were in the sort of the battle that they do, this mock battle that they do. We're all firing blanks, of course. And we're in our defensive position across one side of the valley, and the offensive operation is moving on the other side. And they had that same tracked vehicle. It had come much closer to us earlier in the week, and that's where I really felt it. But this time it was across a small valley. And it just began firing with 50 cal blanks. And I emphasize blanks. These weren't even the real deal. These were just little party crackers, basically. And from across this small valley, you felt every single round go through your chest. And to then realize, like, every movie's got it wrong. In every movie, in the chaos of battle, you've got people shouting to each other and they can hear each other. As best as I can tell from the vets that I've spoken to that are in really intense combat, you forget it. All you can hear is ringing in your ears. You can barely even hear the sound of your own weapon because your ears are just so incredibly overloaded and overwhelmed. And in that moment, I just sat there and went, my God, like, war, like I haven't even experienced a taste of war. I've experienced a taste of playing at war, but I can already see this is fucked up. This is hell. And I am very happy now that I left, having never been deployed. At the time, I was annoyed that they weren't deploying reservists. Today, as a 44-year-old father of 3, I think one of the best things that ever happened to me was that I got injured and had a couple of other issues in the Army Reserves and never, ever ended up being deployed. I think it's honestly one of the best things that ever happened to me.
I, again, have nothing to add to that other than firing at Uzis, real fun. Not at people, obviously. But also can recommend
I've heard that it's also fun firing it at people, just to be clear. Like, I'm not saying that it's not fun to fire at people. It just has other consequences and probably shouldn't be done most of the time.
I've shot a lot of guns. It's kind of fun. I'm not gonna lie, guys. Every time I go to the States, I am more than happy to do that. Anyway, how did we get onto that topic? Back to the SPLC.
Yeah.
So with this, though, the funding and the lobbying and things like that. So basically, I mean, at the core of this is that America is such an unracist country with so few hate crimes. They had to fund them. Now, one of our favorite trolls in here is very upset about it. Doesn't like that we're reporting this story. I'm really sorry that facts get in the way of feelings, but at the end of the day, are there a couple of closet racists? Yes, of course there are. There's some shit people out there, 100%. But to the magnitude that the media reports, no. And if that position goes, then what? What have they got? What have the Democrats got? What have the left got? Because remember, take away the Charlottesville thing, all of that woke crap has been a social contagion, right? Trans genocide. How many times have we heard that there's a genocide of trans people? I don't know a single trans person who's died. I don't know, like
Yeah.
for genocide, you think I'd be familiar with at least one person. What is it? Silence is violence. We've got the Me Too movement, all of these social justice issues that come up with such vibrant, like, angst and anger and people just, splitting themselves at the seams, sorry. This is so bad. It's so prolific. And then all this money's raised, all of these hullabaloos, all this carry on, and then poof, disappears. And of most of these Me Too things, for example, most of it's been dispelled. There was a handful of people who fell down for it, but most of it comes out inaccurate.
Friend of the show, we haven't talked about him in a while, actually, but you know what? It's worth just a quick trip down memory lane.
Juicy Smelly.
Juicy Smelly. A name that sounds like the most overrated ice cream you have ever come across in your life.
Juicy Smelly.
Now, interesting little detail. I didn't actually know this until I was literally just looking at it here now. Apparently, his conviction has since been overturned, not on the basis that it was incorrect, but on the basis that the prosecution violated his rights. So on a technicality rather than on substance. But for those who don't know, Juicy Smollett was famous. He was an actor, wasn't he? He was actually, let's say,
he was an actor in Empire. Very well-known actor. And he was so desperate for there to be hatred against black people in America that he made it up. Beg your pardon. He was the noose guy, wasn't he? Yeah. And he said that two Nigerians, he paid two Nigerians, but he said two MAGA people in Chicago said, this is MAGA country.
Yeah. So two MAGA people were walking around with like MAGA identifiers on them and had a noose handy and tied it around Juicy's throat. You'll be amazed, you'll be stunned to learn, Carly, that not everyone believed his story. I know, how could you see through such a watertight story as that? But people saw through it. He was actually then prosecuted for making false reports to police, a rare instance where people were actually held accountable. He was sentenced to 150 days in jail, ordered to pay a fine of $145,000 for lying to the police about being the victim of a hate crime. He was found guilty of 5 charges in December. Now, I don't believe he spent any time in jail. I believe the appeal was lodged immediately, and obviously the sentence in these sorts of cases where it's not like a serial killer or a danger to the public or what have you, they get to go on with their lives awaiting the outcome of the appeal. So I don't believe he actually spent any time in prison. But he says he was punched in the face, had an unknown chemical substance poured on him, and a rope wrapped around his neck. And that the two attackers
if you're going to lie, you need more dragons, right? If you're going to lie, sorry to cut you off.
Needs more cowbell.
How do you know something's a lie? Because it's so elaborate. They're two MAGA people wearing distinguishable MAGA things at 1 a.m. out the front of Subway. They happen to have a noose. They happen to have some kind of chemical weapon, and they bashed him all in the space of like 3 minutes. Like, bro, cool it. One would have been enough. But no, they're like, and then this happened.
So CRFL Oz is saying next story. Well, okay, so the Juicy Smollett story is an old one, but it's important in the same way that you mentioned the Me Too movement. What's his name? The Pirates of the Caribbean actor. Who got dragged through hell. Johnny Depp got dragged through hell by Amber Heard. Like, yes, okay, it's an old story, but actually this stuff is still very relevant. And in the context of the Southern Poverty Law Center having just had a grand jury indictment against them, I would say that this is incredibly relevant. And finally, we're beginning to see a real pushback. We're beginning to see the lawfare go in both directions rather than only ever in one.
What's really important to notice here is like those stories might be old, but the truth about them is finally surfacing. It doesn't matter if these happened 4, 5, 10 years ago. The truth eventually comes out. And what we're finding is a lot of these stories that were massive cultural events at the time that led to massive legislation change and also changed how people voted were hoaxes. were fabricated, weren't even real. And like, let's just forget about America for a second. Let's bring it here to Australian soil. I'd love to see how much of what has been portrayed in the news that's very positive for the Labor Party was actually factually accurate. I mean, all the racism. Remember, guys, we're all raging racists, apparently, for just daring to like Australia. You know how I played last week the Carlz Australia video that he put up?
I just tuned you out, which is, I tell you what, a couple of seconds of peace like I've never had before. I've just been sent a message by a friend of mine. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get this onto my computer. Sorry. I saw it come in and I saw who it was from, and I thought, oh, I better have a quick look at what that is. Apparently the Greens have released a how to vote and how preferences work video using Lego as their illustration.
You're gonna have some fun with
video
that.
title is How to Stop One Nation Using Lego. And there she is with her Lego. Say, this is my ballot, blah, blah, blah. You can read the subtitles better than I can now. Interesting.
Oh, well, you can have some fun with that.
Oh, yeah, there we go. There's the different categories, the different stuff. Yep, there we go. How funny. Sorry, I just came in. I thought I better have a look at what that is. And that's what that was. I'm going to have to interrupt my blissful ignorance of what you were saying and ask you to repeat it.
Don't remember.
Cool. That's a great result. That's worked well.
But on to, what's happening here in Australia. That's what I was talking about. We've got so many bad faith actors, like at the moment you've got that chick who's the writer, right? What's her name? That got fired from the festival and now she's back and she's getting 800,000. Yeah. This whole story. How many people are being funded by our government who are just hateful people who are basically fabricating nonsense and profiting off it?
Karen, Julia Inman Grant. Like, I think that's got to be prime example number one. She is literally, I use the analogy all the time. It's not my analogy. It's existed for ages, but I think it's the right one. They are hammers in search of a nail. And if they can't find the nail, they get worried about their funding and they invent a nail where there wasn't even one to start with. If they don't find problems, they lose their funding. Yeah.
So, I mean, do you know what, though? I am buoyed by this. I am a bit of an accelerationist at this point, purely because I'm like, can we just get to the finish line? Like, this has been dragging out for too long. I do think we're going to have a speed run there. I do think that the snowball is gaining momentum because every week something new comes out. This was a fabrication. This isn't true. This person's a scammer. This person's a liar. And guys, if in case it isn't clear, the person who has to scream from the rooftops that someone else is doing the thing, that someone else is the bad guy, it's usually them that is the bad guy. Like,
unless it's me doing the screaming. If I'm doing the screaming, then it's totally above board, totally legit. Don't even
how
stress
many
about it.
times? What we've got to talk about? He's American, but this is fantastic. Eric Swalwell, the congressman who's
I know
been
the
like
name so well, but I can't picture him.
Okay, so he's the guy that's just been taken out of Congress and out of the race for governor of California for raping women.
I'm with you. Yes.
Like guys,
gosh.
The more they have to tell you and convince you how much they believe in these social justice issues.
We've talked about this. It's the dude at the very front of the Pussy Hat March who's insisting that he's the most raging male feminist you've ever met. That's the dude you should not let near your kids. Right? Like, that's where they hide.
I'm smiling because there is someone you guys will all know, and for obvious reasons, I don't want any defamation lawsuits, but there is someone who has the smile of the Cheshire Cat, who is at the front of all the social justice, wearing that big, pretty sash with all the patches on it, who's desperate for relevance, whose time will come. And can I just tell you, it will be one of the greatest days of my life. And that time will be, it's inevitable that it will happen. When it happens, I am not the karma vigilante. I don't want that bad karma. But boy, am I excited for the day it happens.
So you know that the Kmart sports section sells karma do-it-yourself kits. Sorry, they call them baseball bats, but it's the same thing. It's just
No,
like
no.
a.
I am
No?
not the karma police. I don't want
Okay.
that bad karma. I am.
All right.
This is something that you need to understand about me. I can play the long game. I am someone who can sit there and wait. It is a very toxic trait, but I can wait a very long time.
Revenge is a dish best served cold, I believe is the expression. Now, thankfully, our audience are less of a complete unmitigated train wreck of a disaster compared
Oh, they
to
remember.
what the Oddcast actually is.
Excellent.
And they remember what I don't remember because I was tuned out at the time, and you didn't even remember, despite being the person who was saying it. You were talking about Carl Stefanovic and his video that you played last week.
I was. So it was really interesting watching the reaction because I think it sort of would have captured a millennial, because millennials are probably the last group of people that kind of remember that Australia that Carl showed in that video. And I've seen a bunch of hit pieces come from Gen Zs saying, look at this is so racist, this is disgusting, Carl Stefanovic's a like all young guys, right? Like young men. And I look at it and I just feel nothing but sympathy for these little soy boys who don't actually know how good this country used to be. And the language they use, like, oh, you know, he's talking down, it's a dog whistle for racism, you know, there wasn't any Aboriginals in this, you know. And I sit there and I go, you're inventing things that didn't exist. Back then, we all got along. Back then, the biggest fight we had was who was going to win the Boxing Day test or the Anzac Day footy match. Was it Collingwood or was it Essendon, right? Like, they were the battles we had. And yet, in Gen Z's mind, everything is some horrific racial hate crime or some kind of disgusting human rights battle. These things don't exist.
We've talked about this before, where we calibrate. Human beings are amazing at calibrating to our circumstances. People who have only ever known poverty and misery can be incredibly happy within that poverty and misery. And something as simple as a full belly can leave them smiling and blissful and grateful, even though they have no food yet for tomorrow. That's a tomorrow problem. We'll sort that out then. I had a full meal and I feel full. That's amazing. And for other people who live in privilege and wealth and what have you, the fact that their iPhone ran out of battery can be the worst thing in the world, or the fact that, I don't know, just to pull a random nothing off the top of my head, the fact that their boyfriend spilt tea on their laptop is like a world-ending catastrophe. No, nothing, no reaction.
No, I got it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got something to make us mad. Sorry.
All right. So we'll get to that in a second. So what happens though is when people's dynamic range in their life is only here, right? They're never that bad off. They're quite comfortable. And this is the reality for most of us, right? Unless you're the commenter earlier whose name escapes me, who's been to combat. Okay, you've experienced the suck, right? And other people, if you've been abused, you've experienced some pretty high levels of suck. If you've been in genuine homelessness, you've experienced some pretty high levels of suck. But for the vast majority of the population, the worst thing that's ever happened to us is not that bad. It's uncomfortable. It's not fun, but it's not that bad. But also, like, life is kind of mundane and it kind of sucks, and most of us aren't exactly living the dream. So the greatest thing that's ever happened to us is also not that amazing. And we live in this relatively narrow dynamic range of experiences. And so the minute something bumps us here, well, now it's DEFCON 5. Even though here is the worst thing that could happen, it's just, if it's just slightly outside of what it's the worst thing that ever happened to us. And it's DEFCON 5. But then when you introduce the incentive of the oppression Olympics, now it's just, if you can imagine that they want to take you to the worst thing that's ever happened to you, now that's enough. Now you can claim victim status. Now you can do a Juicy Smollett, or you can do an SPLC and invent the problem. And this is now where we've created incentives for people to be absolutely outraged about imaginary things that haven't even happened to them, that really aren't even that bad, even if they did happen to them.
Yeah. Can you, this is on the theme of what we're talking about, can you please go to Instagram and pull up the Age newspapers? So this has just come out. The Age of all people are doing this investigation. I'm buoyed by this. So it
hang
says
on, the Age on Instagram specifically.
Age on Instagram. So if you go to the Ages profile, and
I'm
it's
on the Ages profile.
the third reel across on the right-hand side.
Okay, hold
And
on.
I'll
Let me put the screen on, and you can then direct me from there because I don't want to be flying blind here. You're saying that it's this. Hang on.
The Age
You're
Australia.
Yeah, that it's the public. Oh, hang on. Sorry, it's not on the screen yet. That's why you can't see it. There we go. You're saying it's public transport one.
No. Scroll up. That is not the Age Australia. Go up. No.
Oh.
That is not
Hang
the Age, friend. You are go to your little magnifying glass on the left.
Yeah. I searched for the Age.
Type the Age. No.
Yeah.
Go back. Type. No. Go back. Go back. The Age one word. The Age one word.
Yeah.
It'll come up now. There you go. Top
the
one.
Age Australia.
So, all right, guys, I'm teaching the boomers how to Instagram. There we go.
I've said this to Carly 1,000 times. She knows. I am 44 going on 84 when it comes to technology. I don't even like this stuff. All right, what am I looking at here?
All right, so go up the top to where the play is, and we want to go there real. So go up, go down, down. Keep going down, Down one more row, across to the middle there, where the little play button is, across there. Yep, click that guy. We're doing good.
I hope this is riveting viewing, guys. There's
Over on the right.
1,258 people watching Carly direct me around Instagram.
Right. Before you play it, hundreds of Labor Party members, former MPs and factional allies have secured a disproportionate number of taxpayer-funded seats on Victoria's most influential public boards. The finding has provoked accusations of a pervasive culture of political patronage from leading government experts. So on the right-hand side, top reel, that one, click that. Let's watch it. You're going to have to press mute.
Yeah, I know, and it's
Local
tiny.
authorities in Victoria are made around the boardroom table. And if you look closely at who the members of those public boards are, they are positions held disproportionately in Victoria by members of the Labor Party or people closely affiliated to Labor. So public boards cover everything from hospitals to cemeteries to infrastructure. And the biggest boards in charge of the biggest organisations, they pay reasonably well. Like they pay up to $160,000 for a chair, and a member of that board who's not the chair will get anywhere between $40,000 and $60,000. One of the stated goals that the Victorian government has for boards in Victoria is that they really reflect the diversity of the community. So there's 1,800 board seats in Victoria that are classed Category A or Category B, and these are the best paid. And of the 1,800 seats, roughly 1 in 10 of them are filled by someone who has a Labor Party affiliation. That's not necessarily a reflection of the sort of diversity that these boards are meant to be covering. A lot of the experts that I talked to for this story are really concerned that having these sorts of appointments made to public organisations that make really important decisions about how the state is run are in some cases not appropriate. These boards are meant to speak out when things are wrong. And if you have boards that are run by people who are very loyal to the Labor Party, then that's not a good thing for Victoria. We asked Premier Jacinta Allan's office about Labor's strong representation on boards in Victoria. They said to us that boards in the state were diverse and made up of people with integrity. Many of, if not all of them, are extremely capable people. But when you look at it more broadly, you do start to ask the question, how do so many Labor people end up on boards in this state? Some of the most important decisions made by public...
That's one of the ones that I would sit there and go, I want to do more research on that, because there is a reality that there's only a certain culture of person that ends up on a board. I've moved, I'm not one of those people, but I've moved in those circles. I moved in a fairly big dollar fundraising organization for the Monash Children's Hospital. I was involved in a thing called the Dandelion Wishes fundraising gala. It was held at the Crown Palladium. It was a multi-million-dollar event every year. I was on the organizing committee with my wife and friends with the people that actually started it. And you see the kinds of people that move in these sorts of, you know, high society fundraising circles, getting onto the board positions, some voluntary, some paid, all that sort of thing. It's a certain class of person. And those people are disproportionately likely to be involved with a political party. They are. It's just the nature of that kind of person. To be honest, 10% with Labor affiliations doesn't strike me as a smoking gun. I'm not saying there's no problem, but honestly, if it was 20% or 30%, I'd go, well, yeah, okay, hold on, this is a bit rich. But 10% doesn't actually strike me as being that far outside of the window of what might be expected.
I'd love to see what the pay packets are.
Sure.
The thing is, though, like, the reason I wanted to share that story is that's the age. That's their
that's the
softball
surprise, yes.
journalists. That's the
Yeah.
people who are Labor sycophants. The age is now doing it. And I think that sets the tone for where we're at in this state. I think everyone, what's the Alexander Solzhenitsyn, right? It's like, we
Yeah.
know they're lying. They know that we know that they're lying. And yet
But they lie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? That's where we're at. Everyone knows this government's corrupt. Everyone knows they're in it for themselves. They're just filling their pockets like pigs in the trough. We know it. They know that we know it. And yet they do it. So back on the Jacinta Allan thing where she was taking the $300,000 for her second home, right? I didn't make this point before. She was questioned about it, and her answer was simply, it's within the spirit of the rules.
Yeah.
Okay, she's right. She is right. It is within the spirit of the rules. Okay, cool. You are the leader of this state, a state that is desperately trying to battle crippling debt, and you are paid more than anyone else in this country in your position. Would you not think, as a leader, it would signal a really good thing to the people that you go, you know what? $500,000 per annum is a lot of money. I don't need that extra $300,000. And given the state of Victoria, I'm not going to take it. Of course she's not going to do that.
I wag my finger at you. What sort of a signal would it send to imply that the great state of Victoria couldn't afford a couple of $100,000 to make sure that its wonderful leader is properly remunerated for the incredible sacrifices that she makes on behalf of those poor, hapless people of Victoria who, without her bold and brave leadership, would be rudderless, would be listless, would be lost? I say we double it. She needs more homes.
I'm too young to have blood pressure problems. I'm too young for this.
Can I say, Tony Wong makes a great point about our last little topic there about the boards and everything else. In most cases, in most instances, the boards probably shouldn't exist at all. Could not agree more. I think that's a bigger issue at play there. Or certainly they shouldn't have any political influence. There shouldn't be anything political or sort of, these boards exist to speak up. What? I thought they existed to run a morgue or run a cemetery or to run a tennis club or to, like, I thought that's why they existed. But okay, sure. Sure.
Thank you to the Isaac Hayes.
Isaac Hayes.
Just a small token of thanks for your amazing content. Thanks for keeping us informed in this sheep-like society where the truth is usually hidden from people of Australia. Lots of respect.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Guys,
we do our best. We do our best.
Yeah. And just to, because I just want everyone else to be as pissed off as I am, let me read you this, also from the Sydney Morning Herald, which is the Sydney version of The Age. CFMEU administrator resigns. Real reason for the deputy's exit revealed. This is the guy brought in to clean up the corruption of the CFMEU. Are you ready? Okay. Guys, yeah. Are you ready? Irving's departure comes 2 months after launching an internal investigation into the treatment of 2 women by his former second-in-charge, Zack Smith, whose own sudden resignation from the CFMEU in January came amid allegations of inappropriate relationships. In early January, one woman disclosed she had a consensual, intimate relationship with Smith whilst he was her boss, a relationship Smith had repeatedly lied about to Irving and a serious breach of workplace policy. The second woman and former CFMEU employee who has raised concerns about Smith did so initially whilst Irving was on leave in September 2025, and then again on at least 2 occasions after this, sparking Irving's internal inquiry. And now he's stepping down. Guys, is there, let me ask a simpler question because the other one's too hard. Is there anyone left in this state who is not corrupt? Is there anyone in this government who is not corrupt?
In the defense of the CFMEU and the $15 billion Victorian cost blowout scandal, this is why you hire strippers to do these jobs. Because if it's just a paid transaction, it can't be called a relationship and it's therefore not in breach of workplace rules. I can't believe that these guys cannot even get the freaking paperwork right. It's like Muslim men, right? They're not allowed to go and see hookers, but they can have temporary marriages. They just got to get the paperwork right. The result's the same. Got to get the paperwork right. If you hire a stripper to be your secretary, it's not a relationship. It's a consensual transactional. It's a business transaction. That's all it is. These guys are amateurs, I tell you.
Guys, are we seeing it? I know you guys in the chat see it, but these are the people that the left hold up as like the right people to represent the people. They're all corrupt sons of bitches. And they might not necessarily be doing the white collar crime, but they're all getting something whilst they're there. They're all trying to, you know what, they get their good salary and they get their expense accounts. And if they can set themselves up for whatever else afterwards, happy days. Just like Dan Andrews
exactly
heading over to China to get the photo with Kim Jong-un. Like, again, that Alexander Solzhenitsyn quote is perfect. We know they're lying. They know that we know they're lying, and yet they lie. And it's just at the point where it's like, this is a Monty Python movie. That's what we're living through.
Except that it's not funny. That's the main difference there. It stopped being funny a while ago.
I'm not laughing.
All right. So we have only 10 minutes left. Can I tell you a story that relates to my little tag under my name saying I'm blue, dubba dee dubba da? You never asked. You never asked.
I don't care. Sorry.
Wow.
I do care.
I know you don't. I know you don't care about me, Carly, but that's meant to be the quiet bit. You don't say it out loud. That's the whole idea. You'd be
to
a
be fair,
lousy
I'm
politician.
actually blue. I'm in a blue room in a blue jumper.
Sorry. You want to talk about a blue room?
But why are you blue?
This has to be the close of the show. This story this is how we leave people for the next 2 days until they come and join us again on Wednesday. So do you have anything else that we need to get out of our system before we talk about getting things out of my system?
I've got nothing left.
Got nothing left. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Sometimes, you know the expression curiosity killed the cat?
Oh, God. Yeah. I don't know. I already don't like where this is going. I don't like it.
Curiosity might have blocked my toilet. Hold on to your hats, people. There's 1,289 people watching right now. I bet you that number is going to halve by the time I'm done here. So normally,
I don't know if I'm ready for this.
This isn't a tangent time. People are saying we need some silly music. This is not a tangent time. Okay, we've already done that once. There's only one per show. Normally on a Friday night, we have popcorn, homemade popcorn with a movie, a kids movie. We watch it with the kids. We didn't have the popcorn on Friday. So on Saturday, we were watching some cartoons and I said, hey, we didn't have popcorn last night. We should have popcorn tonight. And of course, everybody loved that idea. And then my genius wife said to my son, you know what? What if the popcorn was blue?
Oh, God, no.
Now,
no.
My son knows where the food coloring is because they use it sometimes in cupcakes and other fun things like that. And so he said, I'm picking up what you're putting down, Mum. And because he can do it, he went and made the popcorn and he added to the oil in this little popcorn maker with a little arm that moves the corn kernels. He added some blue food coloring. The thing is, I don't think anyone's had a proper conversation with him about just how intense food coloring is and how little of it you need to get quite a remarkable result. So the popcorn that he came out with was glowing. I can only describe it as radioactive blue. There was a half of a thing of blue food coloring. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with what like red food dye and blue food dye does to your system. It's not good. So at this point, we're like corn, seed oils, and food coloring in a single food product. If you were trying to give somebody an early grave, this is how you would package it. So we add some horrifically bad for you popcorn salt, complete with MSG, the works, sprinkle it over the top, mix it up, and we all eat gobfuls of it. I should have grabbed a photo. I don't have a photo here with me, but my wife took photos, family photos of us all sticking out our tongues. We had blue pasted around our lips. My kids' hands were blue for 2 days from the dye that came off the popcorn. Our tongues were bright blue. I cannot express the intensity of this blue. The taste was fine. It just tasted like chicken salt. Didn't really have any other flavor. But then the blue popcorn reached my belly. And apparently, my belly and copious quantities of blue food dye do not get along with each other. Not happy bedfellows. So my wife was sitting next to me while I'm on the couch gobbing down handfuls of blue popcorn because it's funny and my tongue is blue and my face is blue and hey, let's have another handful. And she makes the comment, your stomach doesn't sound very happy. And I said, yeah, so I'm happy. Anyway.
Oh, God.
The next day,
Does the story end?
Amazingly, nothing happened the next day.
Shit.
It was today that something happened. And when I say something, I mean that my body decided that it didn't just have to eliminate from its gastrointestinal tract every trace of blue dye. It had to eliminate every trace of everything. There was to be nothing left inside of my body. I gave myself an enema orally. Think about what you have to do. This was laxativus maximus.
Oh, Jesus Christ. This is too much information.
The toilet is still blocked. We cannot get it to budge. and it's green, iridescent, radioactive, bright green. It's glowing. You don't have to turn the lights on in the bathroom anymore. You just walk in and there is an unholy glow. Like it's in Lord of the Rings.
Wow, this might be, I don't know how much worse it can get from here, guys.
So
That's
what I've decided is that I found the topic of my future doctoral thesis. Because you have to study something that no one has ever studied before. And I want to know, how did blue food dye go in, but it was green poop that came out?
Oh, I can answer that question for you, but I don't think I need to.
Well, that's going to be my doctoral thesis. That's how I'm going to become a doctor, Topher Field. Topher Field. And Riot 9, you better believe there is a new book coming. It's called My Arse and Me. How we both survived the blue apocalypse.
Wow. Guys, don't say this is not entertaining. Jesus.
Can I tell you, the viewer count went up during that story, not down. Do you know how sad that is? We gained 30 viewers while I told a story about popcorn-infused blue poop.
Yeah.
There must be nothing good on TV.
Literally circling the bottom of the drain there. Well done, guys. Well done.
Bit of potty humor.
To be fair, I don't think any story about your gastrointestinal system will ever top my volcano story. I'm sorry. I think I win.
Look, but can you blame me for trying?
No, but when it comes to your body inverting itself, I win.
Look, You're right. I mean, you've got me beaten, but I think we all know that. That's not really, sorry, my ass and me no into. I'm just reading the comments. Some of these comments are great. Albury's sewer charges are going to go way up come July. Thanks, Topher. Yes, I am the reason. I am the cause. Look, sometimes it's not about the achieving, it's about the journey. It's about the trying, the striving. And whilst I probably never will have an acute case of syphilis on the side of a Balinese volcano or whatever it was that you had, my memory says syphilis. I just possibly gonorrhea. I don't know. I think it was the Black Death. That you had on that volcano side. I will never accomplish that in my life, hopefully.
But if you don't have the monsoon and the volcano and the threat to like lose a kidney along the way, it's one of those stories. It just keeps giving.
It was very Bond-esque, you know, how sort of like, it's like, oh no, it's not enough that he's up against a supervillain. The supervillain has sharks with freaking laser beams on their head. Oh, it's not enough that he's got that. The sharks are swimming in lava inside of a volcano, and he has a laser that's going to cut James Bond from the penis upwards. Like the story really does kind of have that kind of unfolding vibe to it. It's a great story. But I have to try and beat it one day. And I admit that I've fallen short. I'm sorry. I will repent in dust and ashes and try again tomorrow.
On that note, guys, I am going to China on Thursday. So I might have a new travel story. Let's bloody touch wood I don't. But just the heads up for everyone listening, there will be no Oddcast next week for obvious reasons. I just don't think that would be smart.
Yeah. So for those who maybe aren't finding the reasons quite as obvious, I traveled to China some years ago. I went to actually the exact same place where Carl is going, the Guangzhou Trade Fair. Phenomenal, incredible, like mind-bending place to be. And the interesting thing was I had to have a VPN just to access the internet, etc. And I've since then spent some time speaking to Australian politicians, including one that I won't name, who went on a trade delegation to China and was told in no uncertain terms he was not to take his personal phone or laptop or his work phone or laptop. He was given by Australian security, whoever they are, a brand new phone and laptop with only the crucial people and information and details in it that he actually needed for his trip. And that was all he was allowed to take. Now, upon arrival, he actually locked his laptop into the safe inside the hotel room and kept his phone with him all the time. He never lost track of his phone, and he had the computer in the safe. Got back to Australia, and intelligence services said, thank you, we'll have those back. Analyzed them, and he got a report back saying that both the phone and the laptop had been infiltrated with Chinese spyware that was meant to just sit there and just collect data. And anything in the future that he would ever have done with that phone or with that laptop would have been actively feeding data back to Chinese intelligence, which obviously him as a politician, that would presumably be valuable to them in some way. So China's an interesting place. Let me just put it that way. And you don't really want to be inside the Chinese borders doing a podcast with a known dissident and anti-CCP person while you're inside their jurisdiction. Probably not a great idea. So
no,
yeah.
I've been to China twice. This will be
right.
Do we count Hong Kong? Because I've been to Hong Kong quite a few times. But anyway.
You know what? I don't count Hong Kong because culturally they were so radically different. I loved the difference, the contrast. They're ethnically the same. They have the same DNA. But culturally, Guangzhou to Hong Kong was culture shock.
Yeah, very different. But yeah, I'm going to the Canton Fair, so it'll be very exciting. And I love the Chinese people. They are great. And I'm very excited to have a very good time.
Excellent. Well, we'll leave it there.
Guys, that's it. Oh, a couple of things. New people to the Oddcast, you can support us by buying an Oddcast t-shirt. They are at topherfield.com. I have got a handful of mediums, larges, and extra larges. So guys, get in there, grab yourself a t-shirt. It's the Tangent Time t-shirt. And a big part of the reason I'm going to China is to find new exciting products that we can use, because at the end of the day, Topher and I, after a show like this, make ourselves more and more unemployable. And also, I don't think anyone's going to ever want to sponsor the Oddcast, given the way that I am unhinged.
I am reasonably sure that my green poop story will get me at least one job offer on LinkedIn. We'll check in next week and find out.
But I said this the other day, so we'll round out with this. With all the reels that I've been doing, and they've been doing quite well, I've amassed a bit of an audience. And now I'm at the stage, because I've had like quick growth, people get really skeptical. So now I'm funded by all of the 3-letter agencies plus Mossad. And
sure.
I mean, I've been accused of everything, but now I'm apparently funded by Portelli. Like, he's paying me. And I'm like, can I just tell you, if I even had $1 for all of the people I've been accused of taking money from, I would have at least $30 is what I'm saying, you know? But who on earth would give you or I money as a sponsorship, given
Honestly,
what we talk about?
We are absolutely and utterly loose cannons. You know what's interesting? So I'm talking a lot more with people that are further up in this industry than me, people in America, some big names that everyone watching would know, and as well as other people in the industry, as well as people that are on the teams of the big names. You won't know their name because they're not the person in front of the camera, but these are some pretty heavy hitters in terms of behind the camera. You know, these big podcasts around the world, they're not running on the smell of an oily rag. There's not just the podcaster and maybe one support person in the room. There are teams of dozens of people working on these podcasts. And I literally had coffee with one such person in Melbourne earlier in the week. I was last week, actually, and, you know, having interactions with these people, and you very quickly realize nothing happens by accident in this industry. Mm-hmm. And almost all of them, I'm not going to say all, but almost all of them are actively compromising on what they want to say in order to protect their sponsorships and to protect their revenue model. And I find that really sad. And in fact, the meeting that I had last week, this individual was able to name for me the episodes that they recorded and did not release. Now, this is a show that vets its guests, researches them, makes sure that they know that they want to interview this person. The host has to want to interview, like, just to get to the interview, there's a bunch of hurdles to jump through. Then they recorded them, and at some point, someone put a kibosh on it and said, that's going to cost us too much money. Now, there's a really unfortunate reality that Carly and I have to face. I've got a team that I have to pay now. Carly is one of my team members, a very valuable team member, but nevertheless, revenue has to come in. And I'm looking at a revenue model that includes opening up to sponsors. Now, I'm probably going to go with advertisers rather than sponsors because advertisers are a bit more transactional. They've got less editorial say. Sponsors, they come with a few more strings attached. They can kind of be like, no, I don't want to be on that video, or I don't want to be on your show at all because you talk about these things. Advertisers are a bit more transactional. But I'm trying to figure out, how do I navigate this line between paying bills and doing the right thing by my family, paying my team, being able to afford to do things like going to the US to speak at conferences and build new audiences and try and open up new opportunities for my voice, for Carly's voice, for other people that will follow. How do I fund that in a way that doesn't force compromise? And that's a key question. Let's not forget, just for those that might be watching me for the very first time, I did this for 16 years completely unpaid. I'm not in it for the money. I'm not in it. We joke about the private jet. And yes, I will buy a private jet if my life ever affords me the opportunity to realistically do so. Yes, I will, 100%. But I'm not in it for the private jet. I don't have a genuine expectation that this is going to get me there. I don't know. I don't care. Yeah. I want to be able to say what I believe to be true, make some kind of a difference before I die, because I can't take the private jet with me when I go. And I need to be able to pay my bills and do the right thing by my wife and my kids in the meantime. And I need to be able to do that without losing my integrity. So things like the t-shirts, things like the super chats, guys, some of you have been really generous tonight. It makes a difference. It moves the needle. I want to bring this one up again. Thank you so much. It moves the needle. The hoodies, the caps, the t-shirts, the Getting Your Head in the Game masterclass, it moves the needle. It helps. in more ways than I think a lot of people realize. I think a lot of people kind of just have this idea that, oh, it's nothing. It's, compared to what else they're going to be getting, my $5 coffee won't mean anything. No, it does.
Yeah,
Because
compounds.
we're probably not getting nearly as much as you think. And we need to be able to make this work. And we need to be able to make this work in a way that preserves our integrity and allows us to keep saying what we believe to be true. It's not that we're always right, but I never want to be in a situation where I'm saying something that I don't truly believe is true. I always have believed what I've said. I turned down literally $1 million from Dick Smith. I told that story earlier in this podcast. I've told it in previous podcasts. I said no to $1 million when I was 30 years of age, and I could have really done with $1 million. I said no, because I would not have believed in the message that I would have then been agreeing to be the face of. So that's really important to me. But how do I pay my bills? And that's the tension now. That's the tension. And I've got people who are experts in this industry who are saying, oh, it's easy. You just bring on the sponsors. Just don't do the episodes they don't want you to do. It's fine. It's easy. Well, I know it's easy, but is it right?
Yeah.
Can I live with myself? Sure, my bank balance will look happy, but will I? Right? So this is now the evolution. I'm trying to become, I'm not going to say the first Australian, but among the very first Australians to break out onto that global stage in the podcast era. Not through the gatekeepers, not through Hollywood, not through all of that. No, in the podcast era. There are very few Aussies that have a voice out there, and there are very few people that have real world, on the ground track record that I've got that are out there talking. A lot of them have only ever been talking heads. That's all they've ever been. And myself and Carly have got some serious real world chops behind us. And I think we should be out there. I think we bring a lot of value out there. And I'm trying to figure out, how do we get us both out there doing that? And a big part of that is, how do we pay the bills in the meantime? So guys, thank you from the bottom of my heart for the support over this last year since I went full time. It's been phenomenal. Thank you. I really appreciate it. If you don't know, I'm doing a $2,000 giveaway. So go to topherfield.com, go to the shop. All I'm asking you to do is join my email list. That's it. And if you join my email list, you are in the running to win. The draw is, I think, the second week of May. I don't remember the date off the top of my head, but like the 13th or something around about there in May. You'll be notified via email. And it includes, the first prize is worth over $1,000, and it includes $500 worth of gift cards, $250 of petrol gift card and $250 of fuel gift card, plus merch, the Getting Your Head in the Game masterclass, and a bunch of other stuff. So go to topherfield.com, go to the shop, join my email list. You'll be in the running to be able to win that prize. And while you're there, check out all the stuff that's there. There's 2 best-selling books. There's a multi-award-winning DVD. There's T-shirts. There's hoodies. There's the Oddcast T-shirts as well. Only a couple of sizes left, so have a look. And there's stickers and there's caps. And genuinely, everything makes a difference. So thank you, but also please continue. Please continue. I'm heading to the US in only about 5 weeks' time for 2 months of trying to get that breakthrough that is so desperately needed. And yeah, your support is what's making all of that possible. All right, Carly, that's my grift.
Yeah, what you said. I mean, yeah. No, but if you guys like it, the best thing you can do is share the show as well. If you want people to see me ranting, share the show. So that's it. That's all I got. We're back Wednesday, new time of 7:30, because everyone was getting confused between the 7 and 7:30. So from now on, Mondays, Wednesdays, 7:30. Yeah, if you want to support us, if you want to tell us what to talk about, you can join the Discord. You can click that QR code, scan that QR code, go to Ko-fi, and that's it. I need a cup of tea. I need to get my blood pressure down. I need to figure out what the hell's going on with my computer. Oh, I'm not having fun.
Good luck.
Fine.
Good luck.
It's fine.
And then just be ready to travel internationally to a communist country in just a couple of days' time. No pressure. No pressure. You'll be right.
Well, guys, if you don't hear from me, you know where I am. So just call the consulate and send a search party. You know who I'll get?
If we don't hear from you, we will breathe a sigh of relief, and I will do some solo slow chats. Oh yeah.
I will request Ben Robert Smith to come and extradite me out of the country.
Yes. Yes.
All right, guys.
All right.
Thank you. We'll talk later.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Peace out. Have a good one.